Hi, hello everybody, good evening, and thank you very much for joining us tonight for our webinar, which is all about what's going on in winter. Here we are in the middle of June, and who could have believed that it was going to be such extraordinary weather? Look at Jane, she's looking very summery.
I'm looking so tan.
What's going on with Luke Hogan? He was there a minute ago, and all of a sudden
I'm not quite sure.
I don't know.
Went live and we lost him.
I look like I'm in a zoo, but whatever. Anyway, thank you everybody for joining us. I'm seeing we have more than 1,000 people. Oh no, it's dropped down a bit. Jane, is that because you're wearing black?
Probably. They thought that, she's on this webinar, I'll tune out.
It's like, oh God, Jane's here. We're not going to
right.
But anywho, thank you everybody for joining us. So let me just introduce to you, although you probably are already aware, because this is our webinar number 5, which I think is incredibly exciting that we've got this far. Jane Schumann I don't know how it works with everybody looking at it, but as far as I'm concerned, oh no, now we've got 4 windows. Jane's behind me.
Luke is there.
Luke, here he is.
Sorry, we went live.
Luke, you didn't have your makeup on or something, was it? And Jane Schumann, Sam Schumann, hi Sam,
Hi,
and
Paul.
Luke Hogan from let's call it the new kid. You're the new kids on the block in Potts Point and Elizabeth Bay, and further afield. But let's just stick with that for now. And I think what's really exciting is that we always seem to come up with something to talk about week on week, although this time it's been 2 weeks since we had a chat. And we've got a really interesting guest who's going to pop up any minute, Shanthini Naidoo, who is the CEO of the Curran Foundation.
An absolutely amazing woman.
Incredible person. And if you want to kind of get a sense of her, I was going through her LinkedIn, as you do, to make sure you know what's going on. Currently, she's the CEO of the Curran Foundation, St Vincent's Hospital. She's worked for the Sisters Heritage Centre, Assistant Director for Marketing for the National Gallery of Australia. She's worked for Rugby World Cup. Marketing and development for Sydney Opera House, ABC Radio and News, Sydney Symphony Orchestra. I mean, sorry, Jane, you must feel exhausted just listening to that.
I feel privileged.
And she's
privileged that I love her and she loves me.
Well, that's what you say. We'll ask her when she gets online. And see
Well,
what she says.
very well to say.
So, I mean, look, it's been 2 weeks since we've chatted online, and I think it's kind of nice in a way that we've decided to go fortnightly because it just gives us more ammunition. We're going to be very tight tonight. We've decided to make it 30 minutes, and I think that's a good call, guys. So we're 4 minutes into it already, and we've said nothing. So should we start by talking about what's been happening since the last time we did have a conversation?
Yes.
Jane.
Look, there's lots of activity, fabulous buyers out there. We did have the long weekend in the middle, so some properties were busy, some weren't. Look, there is a very good sentiment out there. It's hard work. I mean, to say it's not would be silly, but, we've got great buyers, people really wanting to purchase, owners wanting to sell. So we couldn't wish for a better environment on that level. So the last couple of weeks outside of the long weekends, as I say, some were good, some weren't. We're busy. We've seen some sensational properties in the last fortnight or so, and it'll just be a matter of timing as to when they decide to come to market.
Right. And so, Luke, from your perspective, and I know without giving too much away, it's been challenging, and not necessarily challenging in a negative sense, not in a glass half empty sense, in a glass half full sense, few weeks. How are you feeling about the market and what's happening at the moment?
I think on the whole, as Jane said, the market's buoyant. I think as a team, we were in sort of 15 or 16 properties last week, appraising them, which is quite astounding in the current market as we head to winter. Having said that, seasonally, winter generally is a really good time to sell.
Yeah.
So, as a team, I think we're working really well to uncover opportunities in the market, and certainly vendors are very open to exploring the prospect of selling, pre-winter, or now that we're in winter, through the winter months. From a buyer perspective, we're getting huge inquiry on the properties that we're in. Sammy and I sent a stunning property in Point Piper live. We had over 30 groups through the first open on the weekend. So the buyers are certainly out and about. They're not certainly not scared of the rain and cold weather. There's some really, really motivated people out there looking to. I
know in the past, Sam, you've said and as well about that. That there's this kind of like perception that once it starts to get cold, people go, ugh. But that's actually an old wives' tale. Can I say that?
Yeah. Funnily enough, well, I think I've touched on it briefly before. Jane and I actually have had, before Luke joining our team, over the last 3-4 years, our winter months have actually been really quite strong for our team, whether it was, even back when Gary was a part of the Schumann Sands, Jane was a part of the Schumann Sands team, we had a really busy winters then, and then it's nearly been a roll-on effect since Gary left and Jane and I were together. We've been really busy through the winter months, and it's really a horses for courses mentality with certain properties. When you've got properties that if they don't have air conditioning or, those sorts of things, taking them to market in the winter months when people aren't so, grouchy about coming through on a Saturday when it's 40 degrees.
Yeah.
I think also, I think the light in winter is beautiful. Most properties are really beautiful in winter. And I think in the past, agents have talked about not doing it in winter because that's when they want to be in Europe for the European summer.
Well,
and, absolutely. Why should we
sitting here in Sydney?
I can assure you. But we have mostly stayed here for the years that we are strong believers in winter is a beautiful time to sell.
Right.
And for many reasons, as Sam was saying, buyers are out there. They still want to buy. Our owners want to sell. And, we often have sensational properties with very little competition because up until now, agents put them off until spring. Really those days have gone. The spring.
Can I just garden. I know we decided tonight we were going to be punchy, and Luke threatened me. So can I just refer to an article which was all across the news today, on all platforms, and it's interesting. And I don't want to refer to the original article, but property market proves remarkably resilient as the sellers return to it. So it's kind of like in terms of the results and what was happening, pre-COVID. And let's not dwell on the COVID thing because I think
it's over now.
All levels are sick to death of it, and so let's not even go there. But it's kind of like the capital city auctions. The week ending June 14. It's incredible that the clearance rate in Sydney was nearly 68%. Now, okay, that's we've talked before about northward of 80, but considering everything, I don't think that's a bad thing. Melbourne was a little bit less, and we let's not step through everything else. But I think it's interesting to sort of note that people are getting on with it, and I think that's a really important thing to sort of highlight. And they're not our figures that we're being rubbery with; they're the actual official figures. Luke, how do you feel about that when it comes to what you've got on your books at the moment, and in terms of converting properties that are on the market to sales? I think it's kind of interesting when people are walking into open for inspections. They're obviously there because they want to want to, obviously, whether they want to make think of it as an opportunity at the moment because maybe they're going to be able to do a better deal or whatever it is. As Jane just said, people still want to transact.
Quality property is always going to attract a quality price, whether you sell in summer, autumn, winter, or spring.
Yeah.
But essentially it comes down to supply and demand. Obviously in spring, when supply is low, typically as a vendor, you can generally attract a higher price just because there is low supply and high demand. Whereas in spring, what we generally see is everyone, seemingly brings their property to market once the warmer months come, which doesn't always have a positive effect on the price because it's still strong demand, but buyers are absolutely spoiled for choice.
Mm-hmm. And so, Sam, can I just ask you, in terms of, without getting into specifics, but the properties you're looking after at the moment and the vendors who you're, nurturing through this process, and it's probably one of the most challenging times. What's the sentiment and how do you help them, get a clear understanding and sense of what's going on without trying to, I'm not saying we're talking about, getting them to reassess what their expectations are, but just holistically, how do you deal with that? Sam can't hear me.
We've lost him.
We've lost him. I thought he was looking interested.
He was.
Freeze frame. So, Jane, because you and Sam look quite alike, could you answer that question? Oh, Sam's come back online.
I'm back. It all just froze then, and I thought, I'll just wait this out.
You missed the question, Sam.
Itself.
Sorry.
It's interesting that you bring that up, Paul, because I think that it's worth noting that our job is to provide the opportunity for the vendor to make a choice. The only thing that we can do is provide them the opportunity to say yes or no.
Right.
How we go about that is with the right strategy of, being able to, all the marketing that we put in place, all the things to get it to that point. But ultimately, it's about bringing them the opportunity to say yes or no, and that's the type of market we're in at the moment.
Yeah, and I think everybody has become much more malleable, much more, let's call it, open-minded about everything on all levels. Like even this morning, me on a journey on the train from the very southern suburbs of Sydney to the North Shore, and how people navigate every part of their day and are very open-minded and are very kind of interested in sort of making adjustments based on what's going on. And I think
that's wonderful. You must be meeting very different people to me.
Well, as you say, as you put on your fabulous glasses, I just wanted to say, I think Shanthini's in the room because I've got an extra. I can't see you, Shanthini. We can see what you need to do.
Darling, and you look so gorgeous, but I can't see you.
I can see you all, but I'm just trying to work out why the video is not working.
Go up to the top right-hand corner. There'll be a little thing. If you sort of like drag your mouse across it, it'll say video, and click on it.
Sorry, on the top left hand.
Right.
Maybe, I don't know. Are you on a laptop?
Yeah.
Yeah, so there'll be like a blue microphone, and then just to the left of that, there's like it's
a bit like a karaoke machine. So we don't want to start without you. Oh God, it says Sam Schumann. We've got two. What? No. You're sharing your windows with us.
Oh, no. We have all your private.
The next one.
It's Adrian's computer.
You're just showing us everything that's on your desktop.
There's nothing there that.
While Shanthini's working that out, can I just say, Luke, can we just talk about the kinds of inquiries, the people that are touching base in terms of vendors as well as potential purchasers? Has there been any kind of has there been any oh, there she is.
Sorry, the link that I was sent in the first place didn't work, so apologies for being late.
She's here now.
Well, would that be my fault? I don't know. I'm a
Center stage,
so.
darling. Center stage.
Thank you for having me, and I apologize for the technical difficulties.
I love a technical difficulty because what it proves is that we're actually live. Because Jane normally doesn't do anything live. She likes to have it all pre-produced.
Well, it doesn't help that, we have such old laptops at work that they don't have cameras.
You know what? Well, I think that.
Or we like all the personal things rather than just Zooming.
Exactly.
So, Shanthini, I'm not sure. You probably didn't hear. I actually introduced you to everybody, and I've
been getting text messages saying that you've given me a wonderful introduction.
Oh God! Because Jane threatened me. She said, unless you're really nice, you're out.
Exactly. You're a star, darling.
No, not at all. Actually, what I did was earlier today, I connected with you on LinkedIn, and then I went through your LinkedIn profile, and I was a bit gobsmacked, and, to be honest. And I thought to myself, how come Jane? How did you guys?
How come this person like Jane?
No, how did you guys first connect? Because before we get into the whole purpose of you being on this, it'd be nice to kind of get a sense of that.
We're so old we can't remember.
Oh.
I think we tried to work it out, but I figured out that I used to live at Cameron Street in Edgecliff, and at one stage, I think Jane and Gary stole every other house in the street.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, you're in the terrace at the bottom, I remember.
Yeah, Sam, I think.
Yep.
And
we have young people to remember up there.
And we were obviously always the nosy neighbours that went to all the open for inspections in the street and
nice.
Got on the mailing list. But of course, most significantly, Jane and I think really connected when I came back from Sydney after 6 years in Canberra at the National Gallery of Australia. And when I started working at the St Vincent's Curran Foundation and the hospital, because as you know, like Jane, the foundation is very much a part of the community around us. And yes, obviously she'd served on a number of committees for us with the Life Ball and then also most, just helping us with our networks and connections through her networks has been such a great help for the fundraising work that the foundation does to support St Vincent's hospitals.
So I think what's really nice about this is, if I could just jump in, and as somebody on the outside looking in, local businesses, I think there's really an expectation for local businesses to support the local community. And also, obviously, your relationship is much longer standing, but I think it's really nice to kind of get a sense of that because, working in real estate is a tough market and a tough industry to work in, and often the perception is that those who choose to work in that vertical may have a certain sort of like intent. But I know from what Jane's told me about your relationship that's obviously it's an important piece for these guys to support you. But it would be really nice if you could wouldn't mind briefly just summarising what the Curran Foundation is and what your focus is and what you hope to achieve over the next 12 months. Let's not even go down the COVID-19 space.
Fantastic.
We're all sick to death of it. So let's just talk about what it is that you're focusing on at the moment.
So I suppose, in great news, and it actually links back to Jane, the St Vincent's Curran Foundation, the Curran Foundation itself is about 35 years old.
Right.
Oh. And
We can still hear you.
Okay, great. I'm not sure what's happened here.
It's okay. We can still hear you. That's the most important.
Yeah. So the Curran Foundation was obviously established by the parents of Charles Curran, Paul and Elizabeth Curran, 35 years ago.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure what it's doing here. And so essentially, they set it up at, obviously Eastern Suburbs family.
Yep.
They set it up to support St Vincent's hospitals, and that's a primary aim of St Vincent's hospitals. So essentially, we exist to support the St Vincent's hospitals in New South Wales, and we fundraise to fill government gaps. So that's essentially what we do. And we raise about $30 million a year. Last year we raised $46.8 million, which was quite extraordinary, and that is all through the support of local businesses and the community that we serve. So primarily Eastern Suburbs, Lower North Shore. So obviously the crossover with your business and your industry is quite significant. So that's a major connection point. I think the other connection point is that both our industries actually, you develop very strong relationships with individuals and the community. And I think that's something that shines through in the way Jane has approached her business over the years, is that it's all about relationships. And, that's what we do. And that's, our focus is very much on building relationships with the businesses and individuals that support us. And you won't see much about us in the media, or, we're not a traditional fundraising organization in that way. We're quite low profile because we're behind the scenes, making sure that we look after the people who support us one-on-one almost.
So if somebody wants to help you, and $30 million is a lot of money in anybody's language, how can they effectively do that?
Look, what we say is that every gift matters and everybody counts. So everybody matters and every gift counts. So no matter how small or large the contribution that you might be able to help us with, you can go online at support stvincents.com.au.
Yep.
And basically have a read of all the different areas that you can support. People choose to support our Heart Lung Innovation Fund, our robotics programs in the private hospital, our building programs like the private hospital redevelopment, cancer research. So, there's just a plethora of options in terms of matching to your interests. And you do that quite easily on our website in terms of donating. At the moment, we're very focused on supporting our nurses. Obviously, as we know, I know we don't want to talk about COVID, but
we'll talk about it.
The nurses have done such an incredible job. And, we really try to support them at St Vincent's with their ongoing professional development through our Nurse Education and Research Fund. At the moment, we're fundraising for our Hospital Equipment Fund. We've got some pretty big needs. St Vincent's Hospitals, we're really focused on providing the best possible patient experience, patient care. And to be able to do that, the work that we do extends the government support for the public hospital in particular. And so we're running a campaign at the moment to support our hospital equipment fundraising. In great news, Jane helped us sell an apartment about 2 years ago, which was left to us through a bequest. by Mr. Donald Stone, and it was a apartment in Randwick, and we worked together with Jane and her partner then Gary to renovate the apartment and then sell it. And it was amazing. It was such a fun experience. It was sort of we should have made a TV show, really.
Late.
Don't you think, Jane?
We need to find another one.
Darling, and it's never too late.
We need to find another one. Can I just?
We might have another one, actually, Jane.
Okay, so what happened?
No, we'll take that offline. Let's take that offline,
No,
Shanthini.
we actually sold the apartment, and all the proceeds from the apartment itself that was left to the Curran Foundation and St Vincent's. So all of that went to them, and then we gave all of our
Commission.
our offering to St Vincent's at all as well. And Shanthini was saying today that was a fabulous first step in towards what did you get, darling?
So we sold the apartment for $1.4 million, and Jane very generously made a significant contribution to that as well. And then that was $1.4 million. It was the start of a $10.7 million campaign to build a new emergency operating theatre at St Vincent's Public Hospital. And in last week, we just got, we're now up to 10.3 million. So we're just 400,000 short. And, but the project can start. So we're going to have this amazing new trauma operating theatre. And I'll tell you another connection to the eastern suburbs. One of the ambassadors for that program has been Lucio Galetto from Lucio.
Yeah.
Because we saved his life through an emergency operation.
Wow.
And so he's been helping us raise funds for it as well. So there's a great example of how, two local businesses have come together and helped us achieve, an amazing outcome, which is going to benefit our whole community and save lives into the future.
And fantastic job. And we, it's all very easy for all of us, but when you need it, everyone thinks, oh, it won't be me. But so often it is you and it's your family and anyone connected with it. It's, honestly, I could not support you more, my darling, and the Curran Foundation. It's extraordinary.
Well, thank you for all that you do for us.
Always.
Whatever we can do. I appreciate all the support that we get, as you know, and most importantly, the friendships that we get to make. So
thank you.
When you can talk about the things that we can achieve working together, it's pretty amazing, and we genuinely save lives with the money that we raise, and you can't be more satisfied in a job than that.
I think that's really a very poignant way to end the conversation. So, Shanthini, thank you so much.
Thank you, Paul and Jane and Sam. And sorry, I was.
It's totally to kind of connect with you, support. So to actually go online, and so it's support stvincentcentre.com.au.
Yep, just support stvincents.com.au.
Okay, and we'll actually put that on our social media feed tomorrow. And
absolutely.
For that. It was lovely. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
I'm glad you finally got over that. I mean, it sounds like you have huge hurdles every day, and a little bit of technology.
I've mastered Zoom.
To get your act together.
Oh, darling, thank you for your time.
Thank you, guys.
All right.
Thank
you
Bye.
so much.
Bye.
All right. Bye. We'll see you soon. Thank you.
Bye. Now we're going to work out how to leave.
Bye,
oh my God.
No, forever.
We're at the end of it now. So just quickly stepping through, and it was great that we finally got Shanthini online. So in terms of the current listings, guys, can we just quickly step through that? And we've said what will the winter bring? What will the winter winds bring us? I think it's kind of interesting, based on what you've been saying. It's not a time for people to kind of wrap themselves up and lock themselves at home, and it's really positive based on those reports that we were reading in the last couple of days that people are out there and engaging. So, what's the next, like? Let's look forward to the next weekend and the opens, etc. There's some really beautiful properties I know around that you've got, Potts Point, Elizabeth Bay, and others.
We're actually pretty close to moving some of the stock that we have. So we've got offer and acceptance on a warehouse conversion in Surrey Hills. We just exchanged on a property in Point Piper. We've got some interest on a property in Darlinghurst, another one on Elizabeth Bay, which we should be getting done shortly. But we've got a couple of new ones coming to market. One being the one that we've just launched on a preview weekend last weekend in Point Piper. Beautiful apartment.
Beautiful. Yes.
Yeah. It was a 3-bed converted into 2. It's the whole bottom level of the building, so the width is just outstanding.
So beautiful.
We're guiding 5 to 5.5 on that. It was expressions of interest. We've just listed another big 3-bedder in Darling Point, which should be coming to market in the next week or so. It's pretty special as well. Those only in a building of 6, so that's 3 to 4 beds, 2 bars, 2.5 bars, with a car space close to Edgecliff with a lovely view. So we've seen some just such
amazing property.
Yeah, just ranging from warehouses in Surrey Hills to whole buildings or houses in Potts Point, beautiful apartments in Potts Point. It's really amazing property. And I guess that's part and parcel of why we love the job is, we get invited into some pretty amazing properties, and hopefully over the next coming months, we'll be lucky enough to bring some of these to market. And obviously we'll keep everyone informed with how they go and when they're coming to market.
Can I just add something to that, Paul?
Yes.
Look, it's really interesting. For us, it is also the relationship, the long term. We're not the sort of agents that we go into a property and then we pepper them to death until they can't stand it anymore. We're out there looking at some pretty amazing properties. One of the biggest difficulties is that people living in these gorgeous properties are also between a rock and a hard place. They really would like to know where they're going.
Yeah.
But on the same level, they really would like to know what they're going to get for their own.
Sure.
So navigating those sorts of waters at the moment, not being overly pushy, just being there to assist, making sure that we really can facilitate as much as possible between owner and buyer. We're very, very lucky. We have amazing owners. I've always believed in like attracts like. And, we've always had this fabulous relationship. So as much as we're out looking at fabulous things, we're also really looking for some special properties as well to be able to say to somebody, well, look at this one. This one's a good one for you to replace your gorgeous one with this one. They're either scaling down a bit or want easier access or want something else, different suburb. At the moment, it's just a wonderful conglomeration, to be honest, of seeing great properties, selling them, waiting for a couple of months till they come to the market and whatever, being there mostly to advise and facilitate.
Can I just say one thing? And when you paint that picture, I think it's also really important for people that are listening to this to know that we're not just talking about high-end properties.
No, not at all.
It could be a gorgeous studio, it could be a one-bedder, it could be whatever. Parking without...
Absolutely.
Yeah, so it would... Because I think sometimes people go, oh, and I remember the first time I met you guys, I walked into a property that you were selling, and I was a bit like, woo. And only because there was so much, let's call it professionalism in the room with you and Gary Sands, and I can't remember who else was there. And it was a very professional presentation. And I was a bit like overwhelmed by that because that's not what I was normally used to. So I think also people should be thinking when they're considering all of this, that we're not just talking about the 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, parking, whatever it is. You know, it's anything really. It's about how you can.
We sell car space.
Yeah.
I've got a car park for sale at the moment.
Car park for sale in Potts Point. We sell gorgeous studios. I'd happily live in a studio apartment. If you're not a spatial person, and I'm not, I could live. I know a fabulous designer down in Elizabeth Bay, and I met him many, many years ago. And his specialty was doing exquisite work, but on very small properties, mostly on studio apartments, which he would still be doing. And, you know, really, how much do any of us need? Certain times of your life, you don't need a lot. Studio apartments are fabulous.
I don't say anything.
I don't need a lot. A little bit of kafia and bulgari does me.
Listen, we've gone 7 minutes over time.
Oh, no.
And we promised we were going to set a 30-minute limit. We've gone a little bit over, but I think it was worth it because Shanthini Naidoo, gorgeous and very interesting. I think very inspirational. I mean, honestly, overwhelming when you look at her achievements over her career. And clearly, you know, I mean, impressive beyond belief. So it was great for you to organise her to be on. I think that was really nice, and obviously very local, supportive. You know, actually at the end of the day, I think it's really important that people that are listening kind of connect. And you know, as you said, Jane, you know, without going into too much detail, it's always somebody else until it's you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and so I think that's really kind of like says it all. So I think in 2 weeks' time, there is something that's we've not mentioned before, which will be fabulous, and I think maybe we might send an invitation out a week ahead to make sure that we get the maximum number of eyeballs. But in the meantime, people can come in and drop into your office, connect with you online. Obviously, Sam, do you just want to talk about what's the now that you know it's like it's 2 months in with your new office? How's that going?
Oh, it's amazing. Yeah, we've got our bar stocked up and ready to go. So anytime you feel like beverage, feel free to pop in.
Yeah,
but
we want everyone to pop in and say hello, have a drink.
For people who don't know, Jane's in the office still. Sam goes home. He only does half a day a week.
Mostly.
And, I don't know what happened to Luke, but whatever.
Either he must have fainted in the boardroom.
Right.
I
think it was.
Unfortunately, really just
Jane
normal feels and people at night.
Okay. All right. Thank you, everybody.
Let's cut it off because Jane kept going all night, couldn't she?
We'll connect with everybody again in 2 weeks' time.
Thank you, Paul. Bye, Sam.